Hi, welcome to Align and Activate, raw talks and universal truths, exploring all things spiritual manifestation, quantum healing and channeling, light language, you name it, we've got it covered. So I'm Amy, Activation Amy. I'm a quantum healing hypnotherapist, a light language activator, channel and guide, and I help light workers and healers activate their light language, work with their angels and guides so they can fully express their gifts in the world, share their purpose, and shine their light brightly. And I'm joined today by the beautiful and wonderful
Jenny Priestner, manifestation and mindset mentor, master NLP practitioner, channel and healer. So, yeah, I help people manifest their best life by healing and releasing the past so that they can become a conscious manifester.
Oh, so powerful. Love this. Okay, right. So today we are going to talk about how to heal the inner child. Is that what we said?
We
Yes.
did
So
indeed. Healing the inner child.
all things inner child today. Okay. So what was the first point on our list, Jen, that we was going to discuss? What is the inner
What
child?
is the inner child?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll start then. So I would say that the inner child is the younger aspect of ourselves. So the way that I like to describe this is we've got our higher self, okay, that we've talked about on previous podcasts. I'm not going to fully go into what that is, but that's the part of ourselves that doesn't incarnate, that we can refer to, that has all of the higher wisdom that we need. But there is also, let's say, like a lower aspect of ourselves, the inner child. Okay, so do you want to add to that before I continue with that?
No, so I'd just say obviously it's the energetic version of your younger self. So obviously with that
Mm,
then it's everything that you've experienced as a child is kind of embedded within you energetically and physically. So I don't want to nudge too much in what you're about to say. So that would be my kind of description of the inner child.
yeah, beautiful. So the inner child is the aspect of ourself that is made when between the ages of, let's say, 0 to 7. This is the way that I like to think about this, is kind of my perspective of it. And it's that part of us. And in my quantum healing regression sessions, we do sometimes, we don't always go to past lives, we don't always go to like quantum realities and all of that. A lot of the time with clients, we actually go and work with the inner child, and that's an aspect of themselves that they are holding onto, that in some way can still be running the show for them in their day-to-day lives. So it's like a part of yourself that it needs attention, and it's not always like a negative part of yourself as well. Okay, it's a part that loves to play, it's a part that loves to enjoy life and have fun in the way that children do. And you could also refer to it as the version of you that just wants to be loved and parented and cared for. And when we do this, I feel like it's a big part of self-love. I don't know if you want to add anything to that so
No, so
far.
just to agree on what you've said there. So obviously the 0 to 7 years, then those are like the most crucial years of childhood. So that is when your brain is naturally in theta brain waves, which is where
Mm,
it's in its sponge-like mode.
yeah.
So, and again, obviously we can access this before we go to sleep and when we wake up in the morning, but the most important times then were those 0 to 7 years that Amy spoke of. So if we think back then, that is a time when your brain is, like a sponge, it's able to soak up everything that is going on around it. So any large life events that have taken place, anything that was traumatic, anything that caused your nervous system to be startled, that has all made an impact within your subconscious, within your energy field, and also within your physical body. And that energy it's stored within it then. And so unless that is then processed, this then just carries through onto adult life. And if we think about it, what you've just touched on there is like, as a child, we're expected to have a playful childhood. And that is what's kind of, I don't know, expected really, isn't it? Like, it's the innocence of a child. But if a child wasn't awarded that time to have that innocence, and you get a lot of people where maybe the mums and the dads weren't quite able to help raise the kids, so they became the adult of the family and had to raise their brothers and sisters. So they were kind of robbed of their childhood, if that made sense. So they weren't able to have that playfulness. And it is through play that we learn them. Well, as a child, we learn the most. It's where our brain figures out how the world is working, really, isn't it? And those then formulate the programs, the beliefs that then become, the sort of the mainframe then for later on in life. So yeah, it's those childhood years are massively, massively, massively important then, and can have a huge impact later on in life.
Yeah. I love what you say as well, like about it can, the thing is, like, if you are incarnated on this earth, basically you came, because I guess I kind of like to approach things from like a more spiritual, like soul perspective a lot of the time. So if you are incarnated on this earth, then you've come here to, let's say, learn lessons and to experience. And this is a planet of like working with emotions and working with limitations that's not necessarily available in other places. So as a soul, you've actually been incredibly brave to even come here right at this time. Yeah.
Hashtag regrets.
Yeah, no regrets. Hashtag no regrets.
What was I
thinking? But working with the inner child as well. So even if you can, I get people that come to my sessions like, yeah, but I feel like I had a really nice childhood. I feel I can't remember anything specifically that happened. And then we'll go into the regression, and there'll be this like tiniest thing that'll come up, and it can just be something even as simple as like mum or dad going to work and being left at nursery or something like that. And then that can then form an abandonment wound in the child. And that's just like one example. Do you know what I mean? And I have a memory of something that happened to me, I think when I was about 4 or 5, when I was in this library with my dad. And he disappeared somewhere and I lost him. And the panic and the trauma that I felt was just immense, because I was like, I didn't know where my dad had gone. I was wandering around looking for him. I was on my own. I was crying. And then I seen this other man. Maybe it was my granddad, actually, just thinking about it. I don't even think it was my dad. I think it was my granddad. And then I remember putting my hand in this man's hand, and he sort of looked down and he went, oh, he was like, are you okay? And I looked at him and I got even more upset because it wasn't my granddad or my dad.
Yeah.
And that's just an example of something that could potentially cause abandonment, right? Abandonment wounds. And that's something so small and so insignificant, you would think. But I remember the intensity of the fear of that situation. So, it's really stuff like that. So you can think that you've had like a normal child, but normal childhood, but like it was really happy. But like actually these little things are like stored in our consciousness, and these little things can actually run the show. So when I do like light language activation with people, we do a lot of throat chakra work and throat chakra healing around expressing ourselves. And again, a lot of that is in a child work and in a child clearing. And we can go, and the situations that people go to, they're not for us to clear and to work on. They're not usually something that was massively traumatic. It can just be something like the mum or and the mum or dad told them to like be quiet or to just
You keep freezing on me, Amy. Is your internet plugged in?
mean, or in school they got
So, from a manifestation point of view, then the way I see things with my clients is, and sometimes they might not actually be aware of it, but something that's happened to them as a childhood, and they might not actually realize that they have actually gone through something traumatic. I think sometimes you'll have people, some people like to heavily invest in labels and like, yeah, it was trauma, it was awful, it was horrible. And some people genuinely just take their experience as a child as, well, this was my childhood, you know, this is what I went through, but they don't actually really label it as a traumatic experience. And it's only when we look at the behaviors now and then we go back and into what's happened previously in their child life, in their childhood, and then we're able to see, and it's like, but this is happening as a result of this. And when they see the dots and they're able to connect it, this is where they'll sit in the coaching sessions and they'll be like, oh my God. And it's a huge, huge revelation for them. It's a massive light bulb that it's a case of I am the way I am because of something that I've experienced. So if that is the case, then we can take this experience and we can heal from it and grow from it. You know, whereas sometimes feels like, yeah, but I am the way I am and that's just the way it'll always be. And it's like, it doesn't necessarily need to be that way. And that's all the work that I do on with manifestation is I'm all about healing and releasing the past because people just get into cyclic behavior of, you know, just it's just same shit, different day. It's Groundhog Day, it's autopilot because this is how their body is used to going in. And it's about stopping it and just standing still for the moment, making that intention. And obviously, this is a very fast forwarded version. We see the past, we heal the past, we release the past, draw a line in it, and then look forward, moving forward. So, yeah, definitely childhood trauma, unresolved wounds play a massive part in manifestation because that is, it's an energetic anchor that they is pulling them down. And with manifestation, they want to raise their vibration, they want to go higher. And sometimes it's a subconscious anchor, like they don't actually realize that it's anchored to them. But again, for some people, it's quite a conscious anchor. Like they like to wear their trauma, they like to wear that energy because it's something that they've experienced and it makes them who they are. And, you know, and it's something that they're proud of, which is fine. It's good to be proud of what you've been through, but also release the energy of it, see the lesson, learn the lesson, but release it. And I think that's the thing that is one of the things that I like doing the most with people. It's like, it's okay to let go because in order to let go, you're then going to like, you know, boom higher and then manifest the life that you actually want to live. So yeah, that's how it then works with manifestation.
I love
So
that. Yeah. And I know like with my NLP sessions with yourself have been super powerful because like I was wanting to create this thing and like, you know, with me it's been a pattern of like not not showing up, but not like there's been like a hesitancy and a procrastination. And I know that a lot of people go through this, right? And I would always move through that procrastination, but yet there'd still be like energetically something that I didn't know actually what it was. And I'd have a lot of anxiety, like underlying anxiety, right? As I was putting things out in the world. And like obviously people can't tell, but I would feel that. And it was around receiving and being deserving of, you know, just deserving, I guess. And there's this thing, so that you've got fear of failure, but you've also got fear of success, and you don't realize you've got fear of success until you start having success.
Mm.
And that's what I didn't know was there. And there was this thing from my childhood with this girl who, whenever I would create something, because I'm like, I would describe myself as a hugely creative being. And in the human design terms, I'm a manifesting generator. So I create a lot of stuff, right? And I can just create. And like, but as a child, there was this girl who was like my, let's say, best friend, but she would put me down, right? Because I used to get so much praise for my creations. I was very artistic. I was excellent at writing, and I used to get attention for that, right? From like the teachers and my other schoolmates or whatever. They were like, oh God, that's amazing. Blah, blah, blah. And she, as soon as I got the praise, right, she would then be like, oh, it's shit that. Why do you always think you can show off? And all the way through primary school and for some of high school as well. And she would put me down, right? And so like, as I was putting things out in the world and like receiving, all of this anxiety would come up. And so what I noticed was happening was there was this like cycle of me putting stuff out in the world and then retracting and retreating because I was afraid of, like, there was an underlying fear where I was afraid of, oh my God, something bad's going to happen. And that's like the fear of success. But I didn't know that was there until I did the work with you. Like, I was kind of aware of it, but not to the full extent of it. And
I
it was
love that
so,
day
so interesting. Yeah, it was so
in your
interesting.
session when we unearthed it. Because the thing is, though, is I'll be honest, like when we're in a session, obviously I don't know your past, I don't know what's happened. So it's not like I have all the answers, but I have
Mm,
the correct questions to ask. And when
yeah.
we start teasing it out, and when you had that revelation of it, it's like, oh my God, it was that, and that's what it was.
Yeah.
And it was your underlying program. So your body
Mm,
had got itself into a cycle that when it gets um what's the word? Praise for something, it was instantly expecting a smack, if that made sense. You know, like it
yeah.
had conditioned itself that when you did something good, oh my God, I'm going to get shot down. And like, because that's what was happening as a kid. So this program was carrying on from your childhood. So yeah, although that this wasn't, you know, if we look at it now, it's like, well, it couldn't be deemed a traumatic event, but it was. It was.
Mm,
It is anything that caused, because obviously as a kid, you were just like, oh, you know, it's just my friend shooting me down. But like, no, in actual fact, it was a cycle that just kept going all the time, so much so that it ingrained on your psyche and affected your business now as an adult and you putting yourself out there in the world. And like, if you'd actually think about, oh yeah, when I used to draw a picture when I was a kid and then I got shot down for it. Like, if you actually think that little seed there has grown into the tree that was stopping you from putting yourself out there,
yeah.
as an adult with your beautiful spiritual channeled business. It's like, how does that even equate? But
Yeah.
this is the power of programs. They literally can be, like I say, an apple seed at the time, you know, that can be quite insignificant. But, you know, to a child, though, little things are big things. You know, you'd produce this amazing piece of work and then obviously shit that. And it's like, you know, and it's the emotions that you would experience it. And so when you
Yeah.
were again producing something, so you got your work ready to produce out to the earth, and again you started experiencing those emotions of what it would feel like in a minute this is going to happen, and so your body kind of put you in survival mood, and it was like, well, rather than putting it out, I'm just gonna like, I don't know, maybe take it away a little bit. So again, it was your
Mm,
body was expecting it. So it's honestly, child work is so powerful. And I've just put a reel out about this on my Instagram as well the other day. And because obviously with my life, and again, I probably wouldn't have identified it as trauma until now because I just felt like it was my life. Like that was just my experience, you know. It wasn't like I woke up one day and I was ill, that I was just born that way. And so, you know, I've had to release a lot of energies and the mindsets of the past, of my trauma, of receiving multiple transfusions, of being ill constantly, of having like major surgery at the age of 7. Like, what? And this even came up in the BQH session that I did with you. And even now, sometimes I sit there and I'm like, what was childhood Jenny thinking at that moment? You know, like, what was the pain she was experiencing? What was she going through her mind? What was she questioning? Like, what actually was happening? But because your life is, it's like a movie reel, isn't it, inside your head, like that's
Yeah.
just happened, and we can't sit there and look at every screen back. We can just get like the odd memory will come up, and we can kind of go into that memory a little bit. But
Mhm.
just to sit and actually try and fathom what's gone on. And I think most of the time with this stuff as well is, I think because people have had something traumatic in the childhood, I think people are scared of doing child work because you get a lot of
Yeah.
people, it's like, no, the past's in the past, you got to leave it there. And I'm like, that's absolutely fine. I do believe in that myself, as in like, you don't need
Yeah.
to keep dredging up the past, but
Hmm.
we do need to keep dredging up the past if it is affecting your future, if it is affecting
Mm.
your present. That is when childhood wounds or, inner child healing needs to be addressed. And I think, when people are quite happy just to put it in a nice little box and seal the box and throw the box in a sea and let it do what it wants. And that is where shit's gonna come and find you. It is like that. It is, that emotion and that it's gonna find you.
But
That
when you
unexpected.
said that,
Yeah.
when you said that like that, I just feel like there was just this moment where it was like a little bit of a Halloween spooky moment where I saw you like, in like a bit of a Halloween outfit, and I was like, oh my God, Jenny Adams, that was sick.
I feel like the lighting went dark as well. I'm like, shit's gonna come and find you.
I just love it. Yes, mint. Can we create that on a reel? I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
A childhood wound, your childhood wound, unsolved childhood wound. It's gonna come and find you.
Yeah. Mint.
We laugh, but it's true.
It's
And
true.
it is so true. And we're gonna get onto that now. So it's like unexpressed childhood wounds then. So it's so signs your inner child needs healing then. So I think later on in life, I think a lot of people, and I think people can relate to this, you've got chronic anxiety, chronic
Yeah.
depression. And I worked with a client of mine and she had really bad anxiety and she didn't know where it stemmed from. And we did some NLP timeline work with her and we took her back. And so with the timeline work, we kind of take it back in increments and it actually stemmed back to like a childhood scene where she'd experienced violence within the home as a child, and she didn't even have a clue that the two were related. And this is again the thing with coaching is the dots are presented and then your mind then links the dots and it's like, right, that equals that. Okay, now I understand where that's coming from. And after the coaching, her life changed massively. At one point, she wouldn't even take a dog for a walk because she had such erratic thoughts and feelings. It's like thunder and lightning would like put her into like a bit of a PTSD kind of state because her mind had associated it with something going on in her childhood. And it's just things like that, like with manifestation coaching and releasing and healing the past. Like I say, it doesn't have to be like, oh, you manifest in your mansion. Sometimes it can be your best life can be the simple things in life, being able to leave the house, take your dog for a walk, being able to live in peace really without your past haunting you. So yeah, especially with that one. And I think as well, low self-worth. I think you've touched on this one from what we'd healed with yours as well. If you'd experienced something as a child in those years when you were supposed to be loved and had fun and everything be, baking cakeys and making pictures and things like that. But if you were kind of left feeling abandoned and unloved, then that later on in life, that seed later on in life is just going to be a massive, well, I'm not worth this. I'm not worth that. I've got low self-worth. And then that then is going to branch out into, attracting narcissists and shit relationships, not being able to push yourself forward in your business because you don't feel you're worthy of success. So again, we touch on these things like low self-worth, but then that then can branch out into so many aspects of your life. It can be massive. And I think the biggest one as well is if you don't heal your inner child and do your healing for the past when you have children as well, the chances are it can sort of imprint on them a little bit because you've not learnt the error of your ways, and whereas sometimes we can completely change our behavior. sometimes as well, it's a case of, you know, well, this is what happened to me, so this is what's going to happen forward. That isn't always the case. I'm not saying that, but some people are a product of their environment. So yeah, so come on then. So signs your inner child needs healing then, what would you say?
It's anything that's like a pattern, right? That a negative pattern of behavior that doesn't serve you, right? So it's like it's anything that you feel like you want to get somewhere, and the getting somewhere, is even you just feeling good and secure in yourself. So anything like insecurity is a big one, right? Anything to do with like abandonment wounds. And honestly, I would say probably the biggest one, and the one that you see just constantly in society, is the relationship one. And this is something that's absolutely like prevalent like in our society, is people saying relationships are hard because everyone says this, and that is a massive, massive limiting belief and an indicator that there's something from the inner child, right? So what if relationships were easy, right? What if they were? Because there are people that do believe relationships are easy, and I will give an example of this. So my two cousins, I would say, right, have who grew up in a house where, and this is another one. If you grew up with parents that openly expressed love and intimacy and caring and consideration in their communication with one another, they witnessed a healthy, loving connection, right? Those kids are much more likely to grow up with the belief that love is easy, relationships are easy, open communication is just what's natural and normal, right? As opposed to in my household, love was not openly expressed. I did not see that between my mum and dad, and that's not throwing shade at anybody. Do you know what I mean? It's just that this is what a lot of people see. They see trauma in the relationships, they see arguments, they see all sorts of stuff that is then imprinted on the child. They see negative patterns of behavior. So my two cousins, I would say from my perspective, they've both grown up, they're in happy, very, very, very happy relationships from a young age. Yeah. And just been to one of their beautiful weddings recently. They've been with this person for 11 years. Yes, of course, relationships can be challenging because they are one of the biggest ways in which you grow. But to constantly affirm to yourself, oh, relationships are hard. Well, they are because you have the belief that they are, and you're constantly affirming that in your outer reality, because that's what I saw, right? I didn't see boundaries being expressed in my household. So therefore, something that I am working on and have had to look at is my boundaries and my communication. So that's just one example, right, of how the inner child, it's that soaking up of the sponge, the fate of brainwave state, right? It's the taking on of that. Whatever they see as a child imprints on them. So it's an imprint, right? And then you're working through that basically throughout your whole life, right? But you can change that patterning, but you're always going to gravitate back towards that unless you're very aware of what your core beliefs are. So it's just something to be constantly aware of and giving yourself love with and compassion with. So I want to just, how would you like to, maybe that's my perspective, how would you like to add to
I'd
that?
like to add on that one as well, and then I'll go
Yeah.
on to other signs that your inner child needs healing. And so similar story. So my mum and dad got divorced when I was 11, and it wasn't, I don't ever recall them seeing love. I just remember arguments. It was always arguments about money. And I actually don't have many memories from my childhood, I don't believe. Again, a lot of them were from me in hospital and things like that. Obviously, there were a few good ones. I remember being out my bike in the yard and things like that. But I used to always struggle with partners, and I was always attracting the wrong kind of partner. and which we've spoke about in other podcasts. So again, though, that was the program, and I used to always say, like, I don't believe in marriage. Like, it felt like an entrapment to me. It's like, don't want to get married, don't ever believe in it. And I kind of, when I was starting off on my spiritual journey and with manifestation, I did a lot of self-worth and self-love, cut myself off from everything, went deep within, completely changed my belief system, how I saw myself, started to love myself. And then that vibration then went outwards. And then I attracted my twin flame. And now it's like, one day we will be married. I know that. And I don't want to ever spend my life with anybody else. So it just is living proof that no matter what you've been through with your programs as a child, when you do the work and release those belief system and welcome new ones in, raise your vibration, you can manifest different to what you've had. So yeah, I just wanted to add on that one as a little inspiration story for people. But it is true though, like you say, if people have been in that relationship where, when the parents have had like the perfect relationship, etc., it is modeling behavior, isn't it, as they would say in psychology, like they've got something to model off. That doesn't mean to say though that they can't go and balls it up, because at the end of the day though, we're all on our own identical journey. So even if they have had this perfect relationship modeled to them, they can still go and fuck it up if they want to, because don't know, ego might make them want to try out and be with someone else. It might be their experience to feel trauma within that. So, anything can happen, can't it? But yeah, I feel like one of the biggest ones, a sign that your inner child needs healing, is if people are trigger happy. So if they are flying off the handle for no reason. And that's the main point, for no reason, as in they can't actually identify what it is that's making them trigger, if that makes sense. What it is it's the trigger is like the gun has been fired many, 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 many years ago in your childhood. And it's kind of like a delayed kind of trigger, if that made sense. So you'll just be having a conversation with someone and just something you've said, and it's not what you've said, it's how it's landed with them based on what's happened with them previously in childhood, that'll just make them just go like 0 to 50 in like 2.5 seconds. And that is a sign of unresolved childhood trauma, because it's again like a seed. I'm just going to stick with this word. It's like the tree of life. A seed has been planted within them, and it all of a sudden, in that moment when you've said something, it's like struck a chord with it and just blossomed. So, and again though, I feel like when we trigger people, we shouldn't feel guilty for triggering people, because people that trigger us are allowing us to grow. They are shining a light on where we need to heal ourselves. So I think most of the time it's like, you've just upset me. And it's like, well, no, actually, love, you've actually just upset yourself, because, it's not what I've said, it's how I've landed with you, but it's how you just communicate that with people. So, and triggering obviously can come out in like, in fear, in sadness, in rage. And I think one of my biggest sort of signs that I needed to heal my inner child was just emotion, pure emotion, if emotion could be like put into something that was on the earth, it was like I was just like a volcano constantly. I was just erupting all the time, and it was because all this energy as a child had been trapped within me. And it was, energy is, it needs to be felt, it needs to be expressed, it wants to come out, it just wants to be released, it wants to be transmuted to something else. And I was just holding on to it unwittingly, unknowingly, subconsciously. But yeah, I just had it, and I think that's what kind of caused my PMDD, and that's why I was having these bouts of like just overzealous emotion, really, and I couldn't control it. It's not like I was like, just going to have a little cry now, don't mind me. It was just like, I'd just be breaking down constantly. And again, I've had to release a lot of that. I've had to do a lot of like releasing work to get it out. And like now the emotion's not there. The only emotion that I feel nowadays is obviously watching a sad film, because I'm a bloody empath. And, nice emotion of connecting with someone and just being like over happy emotion. So that's something that I definitely had to work through. So yeah, it's like constantly breaking down with emotion and things like that. So that is definitely a sign that you've got something that needs healing. So what about yourself? Any more signs?
No, I don't think that there's really that much to add on to the signs. I would like to add something on to how to heal the inner child, though. If we do you want to move forward with that? Right. Okay. So I think this is really important for people to know this, right? Because like you would, it's good that you've just mentioned about the empath thing, okay? Because this is what I'm just going to bring up, right? It's like, so it's easy as empath. I'm guessing if you're watching this, you probably will be like sensitive, empathic, or, you know,
Nosy.
heart led, right? So, so it's easy for us to give empathy and compassion to others, right? But a big part of healing the inner child is having compassion and empathy for the inner child, right? When you're in that state of being triggered and you're like, oh, I'm so angry at this person because of whatever thing, right? And if it's something where you've just flown off the handle and you're like, why is this even bothering me? It seems like it's not even a big thing, but it obviously is, right? So that's like an inner child thing. And then instead of being like, why do we always do this? Yeah, and having that critical aspect of yourself, it's time to call the inner child forward. You just go inwards by connecting with your heart, visualizing your inner child, saying to the inner child, it's okay, right? It's okay to express yourself. It's okay to cry in this moment. It's okay to be angry. Let's just let this anger out. Let's just be with it. What do you want me to know right now? And what do you need? Right? This is the biggest one. What do you need? And the inner child will more often than not say something like, I just need your attention. I just need a hug. I just need love. I just need to be seen. Working with the inner child is actually very simple. It's very, very simple. And it's just having an awareness of when this is happening. So when you've got that like underlying anger or strong emotion, it's time to have a little chat with the inner child. It's time to hug yourself, hug your inner child, and it's time to have compassion and empathy. And I really like to bring in the Ho'oponopono at that time, because I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you is super, super powerful to use with the inner child, because that prayer, right, is not actually about what's happening externally, but it's about dissolving what's going on within, right? And then it changes what happens on the outside. Because so often, like when, like with the inner child as well, there's like, what I've noticed in myself and with my clients, like this like frustration with life, this underlying frustration. Why can't I just get over this? Why can't I just get past this thing that keeps showing up in my life? Why am I doing this to myself again? And then you've really got to look at, you know, it's like there's this gaslighting that's going on within, and it's time to have compassion there. So I would say that that is the biggest way to heal your child, bring love to the inner child. And the more that you can do that, the less triggered you are going to get, which is then going to affect your actions and behaviors and the way that you show up in the world, which then of course affects your life because you have different habits in place, which then manifests a different reality. So that's how I would say to heal the inner child.
So I like how you said there that you've got to bring the inner child forward. And I feel like a step before that for some people might actually be acknowledging that they've got an inner child. You know, because some people that are not quite on this journey, or, you know, like maybe just starting on this journey, and you just think, yeah, but I'm me and me is me and this is me now. And it's like, yeah, but there's every part of you that has ever existed within your lifetime and many other lifetimes, but we'll talk about this one. So that little girl or little boy of you is still within you. You are still that person. You've just grown a little bit. So it's, yeah, like number one, like that's still there. And I think sometimes, you know, people just say, yeah, but an adult now, grown up, got to act like an adult. And it's like, why? Like your inner child is still there. Like my inner child is my outer child, like for anybody that knows me, they will know that I am like one of the most, head screwed on, everything, all ducks in a row. But stick me on a kid's playground and I will be there. I'll be on the slide, I'll be on the swing. Like my inner
Yeah.
child is my outer child. Like I just want to play constantly. And again, this is another way of
Yeah.
keep satisfying your inner child. If as a child you were deprived of a childhood because I've just used the example before, you had to parent younger siblings, or your mum and dad went out to work and you were left to babysit and you were the parent of the household. So you kind of like were denied that part of being able to play. There's still a little teeny tiny part of you inside that wants to go and do these things. And someone's like, oh no, can't do that, can't do that. It's like, why not? Like, release that energy that wants to come out. Like, just there's so much energy can be expressed in play. And my friends and I do this instead of because we're not big drinkers. Well, I'm not a drinker at all, but they're not. And it's like, and we meet up and we have games nights. We get all the games from when you were a kid, like Connect Four, Twister, Battleship. And we have it gets pretty heavy. We've got all scoreboards and things like that. But just to allow yourself just to play these games again, it's so nostalgic, but yet so therapeutic at the same time. So yeah, I feel like I've jumped the gun on that one, but I felt like I needed to say that. But let you get a colouring book.
Yeah.
I love how they do it nowadays. It's like there's adult colouring books for therapy, and it's like, yeah, draw outside the lines, be a rebel. But yeah, so how I help my clients then with inner child work. So I've mentioned it before. So I do NLP, so neuro linguistic programming. So I like to do timeline work. So I like to take them back. And most of the time, it's so powerful because it's allowing them to sit with their sit with their former self, their child self, their inner child, send messages to that inner child that it didn't have at that moment in time when that child was sad, it just gone through an upsetting traumatic event. Sit with it and tell it everything that it needs to know in order to heal itself and send love to itself, because by doing that, because time is not defined, it's linear, it's not defined by space or time. By sending those messages to your child self, yourself now is receiving that energy, and yeah, it just releases and heals. And we come out of the NLP timeline work and they feel different because they've sat and hugged and held their child self and felt and expressed the love. And I know you've said that just in yours as well, like send love to your child self. So yeah, that's a massive one. I like to do journaling as well. So I'm a big fan of journaling, and I love writing letters. Write a letter to someone that is upset you, write a letter to the universe, write a letter to an ex-partner. You don't have to send these letters, but they are the expression of the energy and of the thoughts that you are truly wanting to say to them, like, why did you treat me this way? Why did that? And then just burn it. You've got everything off your chest. You've got all that energy out. And it's the same with the inner child. Write your inner child a letter. We experience, let them know, listen, everything that you went through has made me the person that I am today. Look at who we are now. Look at where we are. Let that inner child know that, I know you had a bit of a shitty time, but I'm telling you now, it was so worth it, because by you experiencing that, you gave us the, what's the word? Well, experiences, shit using the same word twice, but by you experiencing that, you gave us the experiences to be able to learn and grow from and become the person that we are today. So, it's kind of like teamwork, isn't it, with your child self? Although it is a part of you, it's also someone that you're kind of working in tandem with, if that makes sense. Like if your child self not happy, then self now isn't going to be happy. So make child self happy, and then you're both happy. You can live a happy life holding hands together. So yeah, also as well, EFT, like to do this one as well. So emotional freedom technique. So obviously it works on the energy meridians around your body. And yeah, you're just tapping and releasing. So you've got energy trapped within your vessel. And I find this one as well, like I'm not a practitioner in this, but I've done it myself. So somatic release, like I know that I hold a lot of energy within my hips. So I find that doing a lot of cat cow and a lot of hip work when I'm doing yoga, and you get a lot of pops, cracks and things like that, but it loosens things up, and this energy that has been stored within your vessel can finally be released. And an example of this is You're going to laugh at this. I've not actually told you this. So I went to the gym for the first time the other day and had a really, really, really good workout. And I got home and I was just watching something and I could feel, you know, like when you get home from the gym and you're supposed to feel like really endorphined. And I could feel my mood slowly getting darker and darker. And I thought to myself, I need to cry here. And what I'd done in the gym is it obviously given my body a shake up and it had obviously loosened quite a lot of trapped energy. And I just knew that it needed to come out. So I just said to my boyfriend, like, I just need to sit and cry now. So I did. I put a massager on me and I just sat there and cried my eyes out after the gym. And it's about giving yourself permission that it's okay to do this and recognizing that this is energy work. This is what needs to happen. And like, you know, there might have been a time in my life before I'd started doing all this work where I probably would have been embarrassed and like I would have held it in and I wouldn't have understood that what was happening was energy work. And I would have just been like, oh yeah, I'm in a bit of a foul mood now. I'm just going to sit here with a mood on. But I understood what was happening. I understood that I needed to express that energy. And yeah, as soon as I'd had my big boohoo, let all this crying out and then like felt happier again and then went on. But it just shows though your body holds energy. So yeah, keep moving. Move them hips, girl or boy. Like get it out. But yeah, that was a phenomenal. I'm like, yeah, go to the gym, have fun, work out, cry. Oh,
Dancing is my absolute favorite, ecstatic dance in particular, because you go to that, you know, it's a healing dance space and you go to that with the intention of releasing. I mean, obviously it's
dancing is
not, yeah,
healing.
it's not necessarily, I mean, I always used to do it at a rave anyway because of like I'm a dancer and stuff, but I think dancing is like one of the best ones to allow energy to move. Dancing and yoga definitely, because that really moves it just out of your hips, like you say. Pigeon pose for me is a big one, and
Love pigeon pose.
no, it's fave, absolutely. Anything in the hips like that is just lush. It just moves so much stuff.
So come on then, last bit now then, benefits of healing. We've said how to heal, why it's important. So what are then the benefits of healing your inner child?
Right. So I'll tell you from the perspective of like how, you know, when I work with my clients. So I tend to work with healers and light workers that like are wanting to do their work like full time and have their own like healing businesses and stuff like that. And what it does, and even on the level of like channeling and developing your spiritual gifts, right? If you are like a medium or whatever, it's like the inner child, when it's not worked with, okay, or you could call it the shadow aspect of yourself as well. It's like it can be like going, oh, you're making it up, oh, this is just your imagination, like this is bullshit, who do you think you are to be doing this person isn't receiving this. And that's what I work through, especially like with light language. There's that comes up a lot with people, because light language is very much about play and flow, and it does return you to that beautiful childlike state of like coming home to yourself. But the reality is, whenever we are raising our frequency, whenever we're working with the light, the shadow aspect does come into play as well, and it's really important to work with that. So the benefits of it then would be like, I guess, having confidence in your gifts, trusting in your intuition, trusting yourself, you know, which in turn is going to mean that in your life, you are then prepared to like shine your light, speak your authentic truth, whether it's in your spiritual work or whether it's in your actual relationships, because you're not scared of what that person is going to say in response. You're not scared of rejection, right? So you move through life in much more of a confident and secure way. And then if you were someone that did want to, like, let's say, have your own whatever successful healing business, then you know you're gonna put yourself online, you're gonna put yourself in situations where you're putting yourself out there because you've not got that fear. I would say probably one of the biggest things is it stops you from procrastinating as well, and it stops you from getting in your head, meaning you can be more free and you can live more like in a state of flow. and in a state of joy. I really like what you said before about the playfulness, because there is that aspect of allowing the inner child to play. That's a really big one here as well. So that's what I would say the benefits are.
I think with mine, well, the benefits especially is personal growth. So I think most of the time in life is we are wanting to manifest, we're wanting to move forward, we're wanting to create new experiences into our life, but there's something stopping us. And it's that, again, that anchor to the past that we experience. So when we drop that anchor, as in like when we let it go completely and we cord cut from it and we remove it, that is when we can catapult forward in life. And yeah, it's like you said, everything you've just said there about speaking your authentic truth, reducing procrastination, and being able to sort of form healthier, more fulfilling relationships. You know, it's absolutely massive, really. The inner child healing work, because it's anything, it just heals, doesn't it? All the trauma of everything you've experienced, and it can just allow you to unearth your authentic self, your higher self, and step into your power more and become this conscious creator and be able to manifest what you want into your life, whether that be, you know, in your personal life, in your business, and yeah, just to even show up more for your kids and things like that in life. Because I feel like when we're healed, our inner child, I feel like we can sort of turn our experience onto our child more. We become more playful. We become a better person to be around, I think. So, well, I've definitely found that. And also, as well, then you've not got this pent up emotions all the time. You're not trigger happy. You know, you're not causing people to yeah, kind of trigger you in situations and stuff. So you just feel calmer. Your body is taken out of survival mode because it's not
Yeah.
linked back to the past. It's not. And the thing is, though, we don't know we're in survival mode until you come out of survival mode, really. Like no one walks around like, yeah, I'm just living in survival mode at the moment. I'm gonna sort it out in a year's time. Like you kind of it's a subconscious thing, really, isn't it? But there's
Yeah.
just what's the word, side effects for it, I suppose, that would make you see that you are in survival mode. So yeah, it's kind of just like a get rid of all that and look forward with the future. But everything you just said there about fear, procrastination, so on point. It's because everything is linked to what we've experienced in the past. So massive, massive, massive. I think this
Yeah.
has been a real eye-opener today. I think it just has really shone a light on how important it really is. You know, when people just try and draw a line in the sand, don't they? And like, no, the past is the past. I'm just going to crack on and move forward. And it's like, I do applaud that in a way. You know, it's good to move forward. But sometimes if there's something lingering, we really have to go and do the work and shine the light on this shadow self and sit with it and release those emotions and those mindsets.
Yeah, and I think it's
Beautiful
important
word.
as well just to recognize that it's not necessarily about going back to traumatic scenes from childhood, although they may resurface. It's more just about the ongoing presence of you reparenting yourself. And this is what it comes back to before when you were saying about having the awareness of this, right? It is really just about, you know, being present, right? And with the feelings as they come up, and not necessarily like dismissing them. And it's not like you have to go digging for this as well, like I've got to do inner child work, I've got to do inner child work. It's not quite like that. It's more like when you are in a really triggered, let's say overstimulated, overwhelmed state where you find that keeps happening, then it's time to work with the inner child, right, in whatever way that you know feel called to. And obviously we've given you some ideas today of like how you can do that, but it's just giving your inner child, the little you as well, if you want to refer to it as this, if that's easier. Yeah, your like smaller self, if you want to call him or her that. It's like, you know, and just giving them love. And as you do this, you're naturally going to feel more compassion, more self-love for yourself, which is going to lead to you feeling more secure, more confident, and more calm and more at ease in the world, in whatever it is that you do. And obviously that's what creates a different experience for you.
Yeah, because everything you've just said there, in it's affecting your vibration. So if you are
Mm,
calmer and more confident, this is where you are giving out a different vibration. And again, with manifestation, the law of attraction, this is what you're going to get back. So again, it's like we're so responsible for what we can bring into our lives. And I feel like we're not kind of taught that. So yeah, it's life-changing.
Brilliant. I love it. I feel like this is complete here. Do you feel like there's anything else?
I
Or
do.
feel
Finished. Yep, all
yeah.
good.
Feel like I just want to add because I forgot to say it, so I'm going to take ownership of this, but I forgot to say, if you do feel called, please subscribe to our channel if you're finding benefit in what it is that we're saying. Please like and comment as well if you have got anything that we would love to, that you would love for us to discuss or talk about. We are definitely open to requests. And if and please share it with people as well that you feel may benefit from this, because obviously we're here doing this from a place of like volunteering and service, and we want as many people to receive this as possible.
Perfect. Right. Until next time then.
Okay, so thank you for being here. We appreciate you. Bye.